Hey everybody, welcome to the Homegrown Podcast. My name's Colton Templin. This is
Patrick Fairchild.
fantastic. You know your name.
Lovely.
And today we have a very special guest, Killshot. This is a guy, engineer, great rapper from the White Rhino Project, and a good friend of mine. We both graduated from Media Tech. He was the valedictorian and caught me eating waffles. We'll play that video.
Oh, you know, they hit success because I pushed.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. So, man, tell me, you've worked with artists such as Key Glock, No Cap, OG Bobby Billions, and tell me what some of those experiences have been like, you know, working with some of those artists that you looked up to.
Yeah, like pretty crazy, honestly. Like most of them are really cool. They just show up to the studio. We kind of do our thing, get in the booth. Probably takes about maybe like an hour to set the vibe, if that makes sense. But they show up, like probably listen to some beats, probably work through like whatever they got to do, talk on the phone with whoever. And then the crazy thing about those three artists in particular, it's like when they get in the booth, like they know exactly what they plan to do. Like even if they don't know the words, like they're not getting out of the booth until they finish their song. Like they're very like driven and like dedicated, hardworking. Like so it's pretty crazy. Like, you know, probably 2 years ago I would have never imagined like being in the studio with like big artists like that. It was like really a dream kind of.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of awesome to like, because we're going to kind of go into your story here in a minute and kind of find out where you're from and what brought you to where you're at. Mm-hmm. But going to school with you and seeing like how hard you worked and how like dedicated you were to the craft, and I mean becoming Pro Tools certified, which is awesome.
So appreciate
it. And then seeing like, how long has that been? A year since we graduated?
Shoot, about like a year and a half maybe.
About a year and a half since we graduated, and seeing like the people you're networking with and the traveling you're doing just to engineer, and like it's awesome. And I'm like super proud of you to see all that.
Appreciate it.
So let's go ahead and go into it. Tell me a little bit about your story, where you came from, what brought you into music, and why this is something you wanted to work so hard for.
I was born in Detroit. I came to Texas probably at like 10. I always kind of had like a musical background. Like my dad's a drummer, and I was in like band in middle school, high school. I got into like jazz band and like drumline and like all these extra things. I like the drum set the best.
Very good.
Moving like forward through high school though, like it was probably like my senior year, my junior year, something like that. I got like major back surgery for scoliosis. I got like 18 screws and 2 rods in my spine, and that kind of took me out of band, but it was almost like a good thing because when I was in band in high school, I never really applied myself. It like wasn't the right like style music maybe. It wasn't like the right kind of instruction, or maybe just like I wasn't mature enough to like understand all the components and the like utility of them. But eventually like I graduate high school and I'm like hanging out with some of my friends, and they're like, hey man, like I want to rap. I got this song I want to remix. I'm like, for real? Because I got FL Studios on my computer and like a USB microphone. Like we can just plug shit in, probably make it work. They're like, do it. Like, I'm not kidding you. We got like pillows off the bed and like made a little vocal booth around this like $15 USB microphone. And, like recorded this rap song, dropped it on SoundCloud. I think it got like a couple thousand views. Like honestly, that was like way more than we ever expected. Yeah. So like that was kind of the start of all of that. And you know, I got into like trying to rap a little bit when I was like maybe 19 and 20, mainly because like all these other people I was around were trying to rap, and they would like write a hook, write a verse, and there'd be like a second verse open, and I was always into like trying to help them finish out the lines too. So like almost to some degree, I guess you could call it like songwriting or vocal producing, but like way before I ever knew what that was. So fast forward, I end up like wanting to get into like production and like understanding how the professionals did it. That's really like part of the influence of what drove me to like pursue school. But it also was a combination of like I didn't really know anybody in music around the city, so I was trying to meet somebody who was as passionate as I was. Yeah. Like it was the craziest story too how I got into school, because basically I was working this full-time job like at this restaurant, and one of the people who came in on the regular who was like kind of getting to know me was like, "Hey, you go to college anywhere?" I'm like, "Nah." They're like, "You plan on going to college?" I'm like, "Nah." Like. Yeah. And that same night, I went home and I seen on Facebook, like, "Do you want to go to school to be an audio engineer? Learn more." And it's like from the fucking Media Tech Institute. And I'm like, "Learn more." And I like GPS the address, and it's like 20 minutes away from where I live. I'm like, "No fucking way." Because I was looking at the Arts Institute of Dallas, which is like way crazy expensive in comparison. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And not only that, it was like twice the distance from me too. So like, we're getting shit out the mud. I'm broke. Like I'm working 50 hours a week at a job to afford to go to school. Like basically the whole time I'm going to school. But from that drove me to like get into school. Like I went to school really thinking I wanted to be a producer, not knowing that like an engineer was actually the title of people who like record or mix or master or whatever. Yeah. And I also went to learn how to make beats too, which I ended up learning, but really from like my friends who I met there. People around. And that was really interesting too, because like school was just very different than what I thought it was gonna be. Like not in necessarily a good or a bad way. But it was one of those like stepping stones that kind of put me on to like discovering other things I'm interested in. And that like really is what spawned me to reach out all these branches I got going now.
Yeah. So are you doing this full time now?
Oh yeah, I've been doing it full time like about 5 months now. I quit my job like maybe 5 months ago. That's like, awesome. I really didn't even on some real. Like, I did not quit my job because I was, like, making all this money and, like, this and that. Like, I quit my job because I figured, like, if I'm going to go work 40-plus hours a week for someone else, I can work that hard for myself and probably make the same amount of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I wake up when I want to wake up. I go where I want to go. I eat when I want to eat. Like, and it's, like, cool to have, like, a little bit more freedom. But with that, it also comes, like, needing the self-discipline because when I get a call, it's like, man, I don't want to drive to Dallas right now and go work this session at 2 a.m. But dang, I got to pay my rent. So
yeah, I've got to.
Right. And I also try to avoid that situation because that's not a good situation to be in. Like, so part of that is like the self-discipline of even on the days it's hard to like go out there and get it, you got to motivate yourself to go do it because that's what keeps you like going for the long term.
Right. So, as a guy that knows nothing about production and sound engineering, what's the difference between a producer and a sound engineer?
I'd say that a producer would play the role of, like, full oversight of the record. Like, creation beginning to, like, completion turned into the label, turning the credits in, like, everything. They're overseeing the song. They are basically in charge of everything. If you wanted to get into, like, true producer status. Now, a beat maker could be confused for that, and yes, a beat maker is technically a producer too, but like, long story short, a sound engineer or a tracking engineer / mix engineer is really in charge of like the Pro Tools session, aka like the fidelity of the audio. Okay. It's like take it and make it sound really high quality. Okay. Like, although you might play the role of like arrangement or composer or like co-producer, like oftentimes you're not expected to like play that role.
Okay, I got you.
I don't know if that's a great explanation or not.
That made a lot of sense actually. It was really good.
Yeah.
So we both graduated at the beginning of COVID, which the school we went to wasn't like not a good school to be in when COVID started because it's a lot of hands-on stuff.
Right.
So what kept you, or what did you do during the last couple months that we were doing everything over like Skype? Like what kept you making sure you're freshened up and ready for classes? Because I know we all had kind of different ways we handled that.
One of the major things was just like I wanted to go to school to begin with. So like I was motivated to do it. It didn't really matter that it was like going online or whatever. Like I was just as motivated to like show up and do what I needed to do. 'Cause really it's like a thing of self-want. Like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't like force it to drink. So like, I wanted to do it. That's really what made me kind of do it. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, and you were you were spending that money already. Why waste it just because we went on to Zoom? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I ended up graduating high school during COVID. So
Oh, wow.
bouncing from, having my last half the junior year and the first half my senior year basically cut off, I had a completely different outlook on that than you did. You were like, yeah, like I need to get this done. And I was like, I'm wearing basketball shorts and boots to school.
Yeah.
And nobody can tell me otherwise. So it's good to hear that somebody actually were like, yeah, this is great. I want to do this.
took it the right way.
Because in high school, no.
I can't lie. There were a couple classes I was falling asleep on.
my goodness.
I'd wake up. I'd be like, dang.
I know
Hope they
exactly.
didn't call my name.
exactly which classes you're talking about.
But, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So now you're doing studio work, right?
Mhm.
Where do you want this to end at? Do you want to have your own studio and work out of that, or, well, not in necessarily, because this is kind of always a growing business.
I'm kind of multifaceted right now. Like, I know I play the role of audio engineer a lot, and like my specialty is really like mixing and mastering for distribution to like, streaming platforms or CD, whatever. My main thing is like, I have a Twitch stream. I have like some other products I'm like trying to create. Like, I don't know that necessarily a studio or owning a studio is like exactly what I'm interested in. Like, helping design studios is really cool. I love audio. I know so much about it.
Yeah.
But having to maintenance a studio and be responsible for all of that right now, that's not really like on my priority list.
Yeah.
I actually really like traveling to everybody else's really beautiful, nice studios
Yeah.
and
Right.
And
like,
just being there and their enjoying their specials place.
But I do have like my own little studio set up already. That one suggestion I would make to anybody interested is like pick something and get comfortable with it, because if you know how your gear is supposed to sound, like you can get consistent results. Because like when I travel location to location, it's like throwing darts. Like, the more you drink, the more they get not to the center, and sometimes they hit, but
Sometimes.
You
yeah,
get lucky every now and again.
right.
Yeah. So going from studio to studio and working with some of the artists that we've named and other, local artists, you don't have to name a name if you don't want to, but could you tell us about like a terrible experience you've had? Like, just you went in there and it was just garbage from start to beginning? Or
Honestly, no, I couldn't. But the main reason I can't is because, like, I just don't really allow that. Like, if I have, like, the suspicion that you're going to waste my time, like, you're not going to come through. Like, that's just what it comes down to. And, like, also, I think people have it so twisted that I gave you money, so you owe me this. Because, honestly, you can take your money, you can shove it, because I don't know you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just how I feel. Like, and that might sound cold-hearted, but it's the truth of the situation. And like, when people are like respectful to, my business, I notice that, because 7 out of 10 people have no idea what that even means. And the ones who do, it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna cut them a deal. I'm gonna give them some sort of benefits, because like they're showing me that they want to work with me.
I mean, that's really respectful, like, to them and to your talent, right? Because not letting people mess around with what you have and what you've worked so hard for shows that it's something you care about. So not having a horror story just shows that you control your atmosphere, which is something that artists need, especially people that are just starting locally and they're wanting to start doing this. Like, they need somebody that's going to come in and be like, you're not doing that. That's obviously not helping your craft or whatever. So
Right.
that's a huge thing. I guess I've never really thought about it, because I do. My love is live sound. Right? That's what I love to do. Studio stuff is just boring to me. I think it's cool to be in the studio with people like Key Glock and No Cap. Like, that's awesome, right? But I wouldn't want to be in charge of making their stuff sound good, because that's too much anxiety for me. But in a live sound setting, like, I've done that for so many years, it's just kind of habit for me, which I guess is probably the same with you. You know, you've worked so hard at it that you're not worried about messing it up. Right. So let's talk about your kit, your drum kit, Drums That Kill, Volume 1, right?
Yep.
You working on Volume 2 right now?
I'm actually working on a new kit called Weapons Vault. It's going to be dropping here. I don't have an exact date, but soon. There's a few things I'm actually working on. Besides Weapons Vault, I'm working on like a Pro Tools template that is all stock Pro Tools plugins. So anybody who has
that's awesome.
Pro Tools can open this template, and it's all like organized, super dope. So people can record and drop their ad libs where they go. And I got all the effects already put on there.
Nice.
And it's not exactly like, there's no template that it's like, record in this and it's going to sound exactly how you want, but it's about 75 to 80% of the way there.
That's awesome.
And for somebody who has no idea what they're doing, it's like the ultimate cheat code, really.
Yeah. Are you doing just Pro Tools, or are you going to do Logic as well?
I plan on doing Pro Tools, Logic, FL Studios, Ableton, and
Wow.
I was considering doing like Luna or Cubase, but honestly, from my audience that I've been kind of like interviewing or testing my products with, they haven't really seen or shown much interest in those other DAWs. It tends to be like Ableton, Logic, FL, and Pro Tools are like the top 4.
Okay.
So your background with drums, how did that affect your ability to make this kit, and what did you base the sounds on?
The background in drums definitely plays a factor, but what I really like wanted the sound of the kit to be like was like modern and like saturated, requiring like little to no like mixing, quote unquote.
All right.
And it's not the fact that it doesn't need to be mixed, it's the fact of the sounds are very good and don't require a lot besides leveling.
Okay, yeah.
So like leveling, mixing, kind of the same thing, but it's like a much less detailed version because I've already saturated or distorted or clipped or,
so
you know.
it's just the volume at that point, right?
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
So have you used, when you're in the studio and making your instrumentals and stuff like that, have you used any live instruments, like live
all the
drums or
time.
live guitars? What's your favorite to use from?
Probably guitar. Guitar tends to be the big like killer for all the rappers. They all want to get on like the pain type emotional
acoustic
guitar beats. But I think like the craziest thing is on the virtual instrument side of things, like they're getting so good at like sampling live instruments and putting it into virtual ones, like you really don't like have a purpose for them around unless you're trying to record the live instruments. Because if a rapper comes in, they're like, hey bro, cook me up a beat, and I'm like, oh, let me just mic up this piano real quick, they're gonna be like, all right bro. Then I
ain't got time for
the other producer who's on FL Studios that clicks fucking hi-hats in is gonna have a beat made in 5 minutes, and they're gonna be rapping on their beat before I even plug in the first microphone.
Right.
You feel me? So that's a big factor too. Like when people are motivated to work, you gotta catch them. You gotta like ride the wave. So when they're like, hey, I want some beats, it's like, you better press play in 5 seconds, otherwise you just missed your opportunity.
Yeah. So that's getting an arsenal too, having all your belts loaded, so that as soon as somebody says it, do you have it separated folder wise, like for different vibes?
I try to, like typically like trap, R&B, like, and then I'll even try to break it down, like if it's guitar or whatever, because everybody wants beats in such different ways. They're like, I want an upbeat melodic trap like instrumental. You're like, all right, cool. And then you play something that's like 160 that's real melodic, that's like, let's say Lil Uzi Vert style beat. They're like, nah, that's not at all what I wanted. You're like, well, you told me melodic trap. That's melodic trap. Like, they don't even know what they want sometimes. So just being able to like find ways to communicate, if they're like, yeah, I just want a guitar beat, bro, but they really mean they want like a Latin style beat with like a Latin guitar, like corridos type music, like then you see what I'm saying? Like,
then you can work with that.
Right.
And you're at it.
Yeah. So who is like one of those, you know, in production artists that you would like love to work with, like music wise?
I think I'd have to say, putting me on the spot, but T Grizzly's one of my favorite rappers. He's from Detroit. That's my hometown. So like Yeah, probably T Grizzly.
Yeah, that'd be a packed studio.
that'd
He doesn't
be-
travel light.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
most of the rappers don't. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things, you know. Like,
Yeah.
but that's also like part of getting like your like accountability, if that makes sense. Like when you go somewhere 50 deep, like people notice like who's that? Like
Yeah.
they gotta be important. It's like the president just pulled up with a whole bunch of people around him, like
Yeah.
so it's like you gotta compete with like the other people in the industry, you know, like you
Yeah.
can't. It really depends too, you know.
kinda gotta
Everybody
look
moves
famous.
different, but
Yeah.
right, like playing the role is a major factor in
Yeah.
looking like it, like so.
Do you have anybody that has connections to T Grizzly as of right now?
I haven't directly worked with anybody, but I have like some friends in the industry who, you know, have worked on some of his music. Like
That's pretty cool.
I was talking to y'all earlier that like as big as the industry is, it's actually like a small world. So
Yeah.
you start knowing so and so and so and so, and you're like, oh, I actually do kind of know you, even though we've never met before.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I've heard
it's
your
like
name.
this crazy weird thing.
Yeah. And Dallas is blowing up industry wise.
Oh, crazy.
Because California's moving here quick. And
In 3 to 5 years, Dallas is going to be the next major music city of the United States.
believe
There's
it.
no debate.
Oh, yeah.
Dallas is actually the sound of like most other cities, whether
yeah.
the rest of the United States acknowledges it or not.
Yeah.
You can look in the song credits.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas artists are writing the biggest Atlanta rappers songs. Dallas artists are
Yeah.
writing the biggest Los Angeles rappers songs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you have
that's
like
awesome.
Travis Scott from Houston. Like Texas
Right.
really just is on the map right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Post Malone from Grapevine.
Surely.
Like,
Yeah, just down the
I mean,
road.
even those two though, like they're not really even like claiming Texas like that.
Yeah.
You feel me? So like, there's so many other names out there in Texas. Like you could be a millionaire and have 1 million followers on Instagram just from your Texas market.
Yeah.
Like people
Yeah,
don't understand.
huge.
Like it's huge. Like,
Yeah, like-
Texas is not a state for like trial of your music. You come to Texas with like the finished product to sell because
Yeah.
they're looking to buy it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you prefer when you're in the studio and you're doing instrumentals and mixing vocals and stuff? Do you prefer like the actual hardware for plugins or electronic plugins? And what's your favorite to mess with? Or
So as of right now, I'm like very much in the box. Like
yeah,
being in a laptop, it's so easy. I can open my Pro Tools session at like a bunch of other studios. There's a lot of things that benefit me in staying inside of the laptop. Although I think everybody will agree the hardware does sound great,
Yeah.
debatably better than the plugins. It's like you feel me? The consumer is not listening to
It's
it. Like,
something that
man, they
only-
used the 1176 plugin on this instead of the real one. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
nobody
like,
fucking knows what that
nobody
is.
knows.
no,
Nobody
yeah,
cares.
no one knows.
So
Yeah, it's only something that like we would probably be trained to hear on going
Right.
to school and stuff. Like they were like, listen to this, now listen to that. Did you hear the difference? Try again.
and you know, I find that a lot of the plugins, if you just know how to like drive the signal into them correctly, some like very low gain, some like very high gain. And if you find that balance, it's like recording in the hardware. Like there literally is no difference.
So, what is the thing that you've been working on through either Pro Tools or whatever, whatever you're working through? What is the thing that you've been working on trying to get better at?
I would say just like organization.
Yeah.
Like workflow plays such a factor in like your ability. Like you'll be in the booth and like nowadays rappers do not write their songs. Like they write by recording. So they'll be like da 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 da, run it back, da 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 da, run it back. Like that's
yeah,
how.
you
gotta
gotta
be
be
there.
And when they hit like the line, they expect you to run it back the line before and then punch them in and record the next line. And if they hit it, like drag it down and do the same thing and like keep them moving through the song. So like
Jeez.
being able to edit it,
that's-
cut out breaths, and like half the time you're making decisions based on what the waveforms look like. Because you can't listen to what they just said when they're still recording through it. So they're like, yeah, cut it where I said this. You're like, well, I got to listen to it to hear where you said that. So it's really like you get really good at looking at waveforms and being able to identify it. And like,
Yeah,
I see it, I'm
great.
like, that's a breath, that's a breath, that's an S, that's way too hard. And then
Yeah.
I listen
Wow,
and I'm like,
yeah.
actually, it's not an S, it's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's whatever.
same shit though.
Yeah.
Like, You start to kind of recognize little characteristics and things. And like, I'm always working on trying to like just up my workflow, because the speed is like so essential, especially to the creativity aspect. If you're spending 5 minutes trying to click through one window to get the sound that you want, like, you've already lost it.
You might as well go home.
That's a little extreme, but yeah, you know, like if you're
that.
taking too long to make decisions, though, like, you're not making the right decision because you're second guessing it, or you're like not sure what you're looking for.
Right.
Where when I open something, I'm like, this has too much high end. I need to go EQ here. Like, sometimes that's not right, and I go back and I got to make a change. But I go EQ that, and then I come back with a new decision of that still doesn't sound right. I don't open it and then listen and then sweep some, and then listen again and then sweep it again. Like, you've already lost it.
Going kind of back to your Twitch stream, I've seen you've been interviewing some pretty big producers. One of them had worked on Kanye West's last album, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. How has that been, like, talking to those people, and what, like, good nuggets have you gotten from them?
Like, my Twitch stream, I have 2 series. One's called Kicking It with Killshot, where I do like live stream mixing, as well as just like we kick it on Twitch. Just music production, basically working on projects, my day-to-day stuff. My other series is called Knowledge That Kills, where I feature like engineers and producers who come on and like share their musical journey type deal. You were talking about Irko. He just mixed and mastered the entire Donda album for Kanye West.
Wow.
That's one of my homies, and he's really my homie through this app Clubhouse that I like got invited to last year. And Clubhouse put me into like this network with all these other audio engineers. So like, we just get on Clubhouse and like talk a bunch of engineers. Like, we just spoke like a different language, you know? We're all like locked in the studio. Like, there's only so many people who know so much about EQ plugins, you feel me? So like, we just all like really connected, and I got to grow relationships with like a lot of people and just like establish like credibility maybe. So amongst like building these relationships for months and months and months, I like got the idea that, hey, all this great info we talk about, like, I need to like help other people hear this, because it's like, that's what's helped me to get to the places I'm trying to go, you know? And I'm still learning. Like, as crazy as it sounds, like, you'll think that you know so much, and then like, boom, somebody will come you up and be like, man.
I'll think I'm good at drums for like 5 minutes, and then it'll just be like, oh, look at that. The Wolfpack drummer just did like this, that, and that. And I'm like, wow, great, thanks.
Thanks for running it. Yeah, that's how it kind of was going to school. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, I understand studio stuff, and I've got live sound in the bag. Like, this is easy. And then, like, Perry and Wes Martin, like, they just kind of messed my whole life up. Like, you don't know what you think you know. Let me show you what you need to know. And I'm like, okay, thanks.
Good. Yeah,
Nice.
so let's go ahead and wrap it up. So what are some big projects coming up that you can tell us about?
I don't know what I can and can't really talk about, unfortunately, but I can tell you, like, there's a lot of stuff in the works, like, for my personal brand, as well as, like, in the music side. Like, I'm always working, so most of the stuff that I've been involved in has been on the mixing and mastering side of things, but I keep getting dragged into positions of playing like producer or like co-producer. There's an artist right now. I guess I can talk about this. I'm executively producing an artist right now, and I'm trying to put together a mixtape for him that he can release. He's got like a feature with this one rapper. His name's Mo3. He's from Dallas. He passed away last year. But they got like a music video and stuff from before then.
That's cool.
Long story short, like, he came to me with a garage band session that they recorded this feature in, and they needed me to like piece it together. So I like resurrected this song from this garage band session. And then they went to buy the beat from YouTube, and it was like already sold to somebody else. So I had to like flip them a new beat and take these vocals that were already recorded and like put it onto the new beat. Like, after I did that, I guess I like proved my worthiness to the artist, because they were like, yeah, we need to start working some more. So I've been like booking them studio sessions and doing different things, like helping them to really find their way, because they're talented. They just don't exactly know how to handle all their business yet. You know, I got a degree in this, so I'm like, yo, you need to make sure you have this for your marketing budget. You need to make sure you're reaching out to TikTok influencers, and you need to make sure that you're executing these plays that are actually going to show results in your music.
Right.
Because no exaggeration, this is the funniest. I don't even know if I can talk about this, but I'm gonna. My one friend was telling me that he was similarly, you know, kind of producing this artist. He was trying to tell them about, like, marketing and, like, sharing their music. And they were like, well, I told all the Uber drivers that I rode with this week. And he's like, how many Ubers did you take? Like, 2? And they're like, 3? Like, you feel me?
Wow.
He's like, so you told 3 people about your music? Like that's what you
fantastic.
think the
And
marketing...
it's Uber drivers. I'm sure they hear all types of SoundCloud
You know,
rappers every
like,
day.
So, long story short, like, just trying to help the artists who are, like, really serious and kind of have something going, because Texas is full of independent artists who are, like, talented and hungry, but what Texas is not full of is, like, the proper business.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles, they spend $200,000 to shoot their music video. In Texas, they don't even spend $200,000 to produce their whole album.
Yeah.
So, and the specific music video I'm talking about, the artist didn't even like, so they never released it. So they basically just wasted $200,000. I'm not kidding. Like, these are real numbers. Like,
That's
you feel me? So,
Yeah.
That's
all that
insane.
to be said, when the business does find its way to Texas properly, it's going to be the fucking next gold rush, because
Yeah.
all the talent is here. It's just waiting to be found.
Yeah, that's what's up.
So where can we find you? What's your website? All that stuff.
Yeah. So you can find me at Killshot ENG on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that. I have a website. It's www.prodbykillshot.com. But you can find links to everything on my Linktree. It's Linktree/KillshotENG. I got a YouTube channel as well as my Twitch series. My Twitch is also KillshotENG, twitch.tv/KillshotENG. Every week I have my live streams for Knowledge That Kills. All these new guests coming on. I have some really dope Instagram content I've been creating from all these live streams too, as well as I've been cataloging them all through YouTube, so people who miss the live streams can come back. One of the other things I've been working on too is I'm sponsored by a couple of plugin companies. I'm going to be giving away their plugin bundles on my next couple live streams coming
awesome.
up.
Yeah.
So
Dope, man.
if you want to win some bad plugins, their whole bundle for free, like, I really can't believe they even swag me out like that. Like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's
but-
an insane amount.
yeah, so they gave me a bunch of bundles too, like,
Nice.
so I'm gonna just kind of like give them away sporadically, but it's like ways that I'm trying to like give back to the community who's coming and supporting, because as of right now, all my stuff is free. Like, I'm trying to continue to keep it free, but it's costing me a lot of money out of my pockets to even get all this stuff going.
Right.
I'm trying to find some way to, like, you know, break even or turn a profit off of something that is, like, related to my brand,
Right.
because I love it. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
But I also have rent.
Yeah. You also got to pay for your
Yep.
rent. You got any other questions, man?
No, man, I just want to thank you again for coming out and coming
Yeah.
out into our Homegrown podcast. This is our first interviewee, so round of applause.
Yeah.
Very good,
Appreciate
very
it.
good.
We're
Yeah.
glad it was you. So thank everybody for joining. Next week we got Julian Johnson, Jubilee Valley, also has worked with Killshot as well.
That's my dog.
And we're gonna have him on. We're gonna pick his brain about the actual recording side of it, so rapping, and go check out all his stuff on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you get your music. Make sure you subscribe and make a beat for the like button using only uncleared 9 Inch Nails samples. Tell him to record his best song, and then just give it to him for free, and we'll see how it goes.
Amen.
Thank y'all for coming.